Hello! Recording today's episode for the Embracing Intensity podcast. And I was kind of stuck this weekend on what to talk about. And then this morning I saw a blog post from Paula Prober, who, if you haven't already checked out her website and her books, Your Rainforest Mind, they're definitely worth a look. And today I saw a blog post and it was called Can Gifted Kids Become Ungifted Adults? And her answer was basically no, which I agree with. And it's something that I've really been observing a lot recently, especially as I've been more on neurodiverse Twitter and social media. And what I've noticed is that a lot of people refer to their giftedness in the past. So they will put gifted kids in quotes or that they were a gifted kid, but they refer to it in the past tense. They don't refer to it as something that still affects them as adults. And this is something I was talking about with Nadia of a new podcast called Unleash Monday. And on Saturday, she interviewed me and then I interviewed her for our podcast. So next week on Monday, you should see both of those coming out. And we had a lot of great discussions. I can't tell you which happened on which which of our episodes, so you'll have to watch both. But one of the things we talked about is how a lot of people who are gifted don't necessarily identify as gifted. So either they weren't recognized growing up or they weren't identified, or they were identified but they still don't see it as relevant. And I think a big piece of this, a big part of the problem is that we really see giftedness and achievement as the same thing, and they're definitely not the same thing. And so when we think of the term gifted, we think of someone who has achieved these huge, spectacular things, and that's part of their giftedness is these amazing things that you see. And one of the things I've noticed is that a lot of times the most gifted among us actually don't have these like huge achievements to show for it. They have this unique way of thinking. And one of the things I was just this past weekend for the end of ADHD Awareness Month, I made a couple new Embracing Intensity shorts. And if you haven't seen those on YouTube yet, you definitely should check it out. I've taken stories from the podcast that are relatable, especially around the concepts of giftedness and twice exceptionality. And I did a couple for the end of ADHD Awareness Month, one with Seth Perler, who is a fabulous executive functioning coach, and one with Renee Brooks, who is my all-time favorite ADHD blogger on Black Girl Lost Keys. And one of the things that Renee said that really resonated with me is that we see executive functioning and intelligence as synonymous, and they're not. And I think that sums it up so well, because that's one of the things that we talk about when we're looking at who we think of as being gifted. And I think where I end up having a little bit of an advantage is that I had extensive testing done as a kid. And so I know it wasn't just one fluke. I had various testing. I've done various things that show me where I fall in certain areas, especially when it comes to puzzles and fluid reasoning and all of that stuff. And so I know, statistically speaking, that I am in the highly gifted category. And it's not something that would have ever occurred to me, especially in college, when I dropped out of college and in my early years in my job. I never would have thought of myself in those terms. But that's because, again, I was confusing achievement with giftedness, and they're not the same thing. A lot of the time, the more highly gifted folks don't have the same kind of achievement because their outside the box thinking doesn't necessarily follow a certain path that's expected. And I'm fortunate to have that knowledge about myself, but a lot of people don't. And one of the things when I discovered the Unleash Monday podcast, it was because Paula Prober had shared it on her Instagram. And so I listened to that episode on my way to work. And one of the things I really appreciated about Paula, and one of the reasons why I'm so often on the same page as her when I read her blogs is that Nadia asked her, how many people come to you thinking that they're gifted when they really aren't? And Paula basically said, none. And I agree with that 100%. I think that if you are questioning if you're gifted and you're not sure, there's probably something to that questioning that you're gifted, that you probably are in some way, because those folks who think they're gifted and aren't, they're not questioning it. They're more on the, those who are maybe narcissistic or those sort of things, those people aren't really questioning it. They may assume that they're smarter than they are, but if you think you might, if you read things like from Paula Prober, or Jim Webb has a great book out there called Searching for Meaning, and if those things resonate with you, you probably are. And even if you didn't test well, or if you don't have anything concrete that shows this is where you're at, this is your level, my guess is that if you think you might be, you probably are. And if you were ever identified as a child as being gifted, you're still gifted and it still affects you. And so even if you're not achieving the things in your life that you think you should have achieved being gifted, that doesn't make you not gifted. That just means that you're not achieving what you would like to achieve. Those are two separate things, and I cannot emphasize that more, because the gifted aspect, understanding where that's coming from and understanding that part of yourself, can help you to tap into where your strengths are and hopefully find ways to use them in a positive way. Because I think one of the things we get caught up in when we get caught up in the achievement is that we think that we need to fit into a certain box for achievement, to say that this is what achievement looks like. And when we get stuck in that standard box of what achievement looks like, we might not be meeting that. But if we can redefine what achievement means based on our strengths and our knowledge of ourselves and our values and what works for us, then we might see more achievement based on what's really meaningful to us. And then, of course, if you have executive functioning challenges, like many of us who are twice exceptional, and even those who aren't, have some executive functioning challenges, then putting some structures in place through coaching or reading courses or books, there's so many ways to help look at that and help put things in place. But those two things, really finding your strengths and values and working towards those, and finding ways to help with your self-regulation and your executive functioning, which go hand in hand, those things can help with really, well, as I say, harnessing the power of your intensity. So that's the whole goal for me and my work, is to help with that through my Ignite Your Power program and the Embracing Intensity community, and finding ways to help regulate yourself so that you can channel your energy in a positive direction. Let's see if I have any more final thoughts here. As I mentioned, on YouTube, I made 2 new videos this week, so that's 12 Embracing Intensity shorts that I have shared on YouTube. So go check out that playlist. I have picked some of the most relatable stories on the podcast and put them into short, less than 5-minute scenes and animated them with a doodle animation. And so that's been really fun, trying to get those just right and find the right parts of their stories. And I will continue to do more of those, but I definitely want to increase the visibility on those, because YouTube isn't something that I was super active on until this last spring. And now that I am, I would really like to up my audience and up my subscriptions on YouTube so that more people can find them, more people can see them, and then if it resonates, they might also want to dig deeper and listen to the podcast as well. So go find my YouTube channel, Aurora Remember, on YouTube, and I'm also starting to put them on my blog or on my website, and so I'm still in the process of that, but you should be able to find all my YouTube videos on my website very soon. Have a great day. Bye-bye.